for the tie. Off the rim, and it's over. This miracle run continues.
Seconds at midcourt. Jenkins gives it to Jenkins for the championship.
At midcourt, extra pass.
And again.
And all of a sudden, they were best free throw shooter. Five in the stretch.
The lob, and that will do it. Do you believe it? For just the second time ever.
Hello and welcome back to Minardi Madness. I'm here with episode number 2, and the March Madness bracket is officially here. The day of recording is Tuesday, so while this may be posted after some of these games, I'll be talking about it way beforehand. And today I have a lot in store. I'm going to talk about the bracket, give all my predictions for my main bracket, as well as talking to sophomore Reed Martens about the tournament, and finally wrapping it up with some other stuff. But without further ado, let's get right into it. So here's the bracket for the 2024 March Madness tournament. First, I know a lot of other people thought this as well, but I think the committee definitely may have gotten a few things wrong. I mean, it was obviously extremely difficult to seed all the teams this year. It's been a chaotic year, and I think some committee people, I saw them saying that it was the hardest year for selection, but I feel like some teams were definitely placed wrong. Like Auburn, I believe, was underseeded. They got a 4 seed, while Kentucky got a very high 3 seed. So I don't see how Kentucky seeded over Auburn, but Mountain West teams also were completely disrespected. I think they got underseeded. And then teams like Michigan State and Texas A&M got 9 seeds. Well, I feel like they barely squeezed in the tournament anyway. But as said, it was a difficult year to seed teams, so I could somewhat understand. But I'm just going to get into my bracket. I have it right here in front of me. Starting into the East region, round of 64. You could see the matchups that I picked right here. First matchup, obviously I'm going to take number 1 UConn. I don't think I have any 16 seeds upsetting this year. In the FAU Northwestern matchup, this is going to be a very exciting game, and I think Northwestern's very capable of taking this game, but I took FAU. I think FAU either has a really high ceiling or a very low floor, and we saw that with the Temple loss in the AAC tournament. I think it's March. FAU's going to take this one. Next, San Diego State versus UAB. I expect San Diego State to take that. Shouldn't be too hard for them. Despite UAB winning the AAC tournament, I think they got away with a pretty easy one going against Temple. Auburn versus Yale. I'm pretty confident in Auburn. Then BYU versus Duquesne. I see a lot of people taking Duquesne in this one. And when I see that, I feel like the popular upsets don't really happen as much as people predict them to happen, but I also believe that BYU has serious potential to make a deep run, so give me BYU. Next, Illinois shouldn't have much of a problem beating Moorhead. And then for the first upset of the Eastern region, I have Drake taking out Washington State. It's not too much of an upset, but I think these are two great offenses. It's going to be a good matchup, and I think that the way that Washington State looked a little rough recently, especially in the Pac-12 tournament, I think Drake could easily take this one. But it should be definitely a great game to watch. And then last in this section, I think Iowa State will take down South Dakota State. Moving over to the West, I had North Carolina taking down Howard. And then despite many thinking that Michigan State is going to win and make a run, I personally disagree. I actually really like Mississippi State. I think they could be a problem, and they will beat Michigan State. I once again do not know how both of these teams got seeded so high. I think St. Mary's next will beat Grand Canyon. Alabama should take down Charleston. They just need to have a good shooting night. We know that their offense is really good. Defense, on the other hand, is not. So they need to play well on offense to take this one. And then next up, I don't really think this is another upset, but I'm going to take number 11 New Mexico over number 6 Clemson. I don't think they should have been an 11 seed anyway. That's a rough matchup for Clemson playing an 11 seed New Mexico. Also, I do think New Mexico will be making a run in this one. They won the not the Pac-12, the Mountain West Championship, and I think they're a great team. I don't see why they've been seeded so low. So I think they'll definitely take down Clemson, and then Baylor, they'll beat Colgate despite some recent struggles. And then also keep in mind, my bracket's probably going to be busted anyway, just like every other year. It's impossible to predict, we know that, but just to continue on, I'm pretty confident in these picks I have. For the last two games, I have in the West, Nevada taking down Dayton, and then Arizona moving on against Long Beach State. Moving on in the South, I have Houston obviously moving on. JMU, I have them upsetting Wisconsin, and then Texas A&M, I have them taking down Nebraska. Texas A&M, another higher seed, but I saw they're able to beat good teams, and we kind of saw with the committee, I think they value good wins over bad losses. Like I said, I have the Dukes winning, moving on, and I have them taking on number 4 Duke in the next round. And then right after that, I think Texas Tech will take down NC State. A lot of people think that NC State's going to have an upset. They're coming off a very hot ACC tournament run, but I think that Texas Tech will be able to take this one. DJ Burns could very well lead them to upset win, but I wouldn't be surprised to see that. I do think Texas Tech will win, though. Kentucky, definitely think they'll beat Oakland. Then Florida and Marquette I have in the next matchup. They'll take down their matchups. And then last, in the Midwest region, I have Purdue moving on. I do not have them losing to a 16 this year, although you never know with them. I wouldn't be astonished if it happened again. Utah State, another good team. I think they deserved much better than an 8 seed. And in another game where the upset is very popular, Gonzaga and McNeese, I actually have Gonzaga. Another game where everyone's picking McNeese. They think they're going to upset them. That just makes you kind of want to pick Gonzaga. I'm going to take them to move on. So who they will be playing, I actually have Samford taking down Kansas. A big upset here. Listen, Kansas is hurt. They've been struggling a lot. Samford's a very good team, 29-5, despite the conference they play in. And I think they'll be able to take down the Jayhawks, especially because the injury question marks and just the struggles they went through this year. Next up, South Carolina I have moving on. A lot of people have them getting upset by Oregon. I personally think South Carolina is going to take it, though. Then Creighton, I think, will beat Akron. Then the next two games, I have the higher seeds taking it. Number 7, Texas, and number 2, Tennessee. Next up, going to move on to the round of 32 shortly. That'll be it right after this quick break. Welcome back. I'm going to try and breeze by these round of 32 predictions a little bit quicker. First off, I think UConn will end FAU season here. They had a great run last March, but I don't see them beating UConn. Now, keep in mind here, when picking a champ, the past 22 winners have all been ranked top 25 in both offense and defense in the Ken Palm rankings. And these are the top 8 teams with this stat, those being UConn, Houston, Auburn, Purdue, Arizona, UNC, and Marquette and Creighton. Just keep in mind, basically one of these 8 teams will win the tournament. It's just a fact. Now in the 4 versus 5 matchup, I have Auburn blowing right by San Diego State. Don't think that'll be much of a problem for them. Then in BYU versus Illinois, I have BYU taking it. Like I said, I think the team is a serious threat. They have great outside shooters, great players with a lot of experience. And also, I'm not very high on Illinois. Then with Drake going against Iowa State, I think Iowa State will put a stop to this Drake offense, despite a good win streak by Drake. West region, I think Mississippi State, they will finally lose to UNC. I think UNC will take this one. 5 St. Mary's, 4 Alabama. I will take St. Mary's. Don't get me wrong. I think Alabama has a great offense, but such a lackluster defense, in my opinion. I think St. Mary's could put a stop to this Bama offense easily, and I think they could come away with it. Now, New Mexico, I actually have beating Baylor in the upset win. Bold pick, I know, but they are a very good team that is pretty underseeded in my book. I think they will be one of the Cinderella teams in this year's tournament. So give me an upset win over Baylor. Then Arizona will be able to take down Nevada. I do think that they'll be able to move on, although they're pretty upset prone. In the South, I like Houston to end Texas A&M season, and then I think that Duke will end JMU season right here. Just a great season for JMU, despite the conference they're in, 31-3. But I do think Duke will move on. Kentucky versus Texas Tech. I think Kentucky will move on. We saw it in the season. They have to be able to play good defense to back up all the talent they have. Truly just so much talent on offense, but they need to play good defense. And I think that, they're going to be able to lock in this March and make a pretty good run. In my next matchup, people won't like this one, but I'm going to take 7 Florida over 2 Marquette. I think Marquette is a pretty good team, but I think they're prone to upsets as well. I also think Florida could, outplay them physically, and I think they're a little bit more dangerous in this March Madness. I think they can make a good run. And then Purdue, another upset here. I'm going to take number 8 Utah State. I expect them to go out sad like they usually do, and actually when thinking about it, I think Utah State is a great team to beat Purdue. They're more athletic. I think they have the size to match up with Zach Edey. And then I also think that Gonzaga will play them, beat Samford, despite beating Kansas. So I think Utah State will play Gonzaga. I think Purdue's going to go out sad again this year. And then in the next 2 matchups, I have Creighton and Tennessee taking them. Great seasons for South Carolina. And then Texas, pretty decent season, I think they don't have what it takes to beat Tennessee, though. And then number 8, I have, or not number 8, for teams moving on to the Elite 8, we're going to go over to the Eastern region, and we have number 1 UConn versus number 4 Auburn. I'm going to take Auburn. I have them taking down number 1 UConn, and this is the only team in the region who I think could beat UConn. They're legit. They have a serious shot at this thing. And I think UConn will have to end their season here, despite many, including myself, thinking they could possibly go back-to-back. I think Auburn will win the whole thing. I'm just going to say that now. And then BYU versus Utah State. I'm actually going to take another upset, number 6 BYU. I think BYU is a great team, and they've beaten Iowa State at home and also played them very good on the road. So I think they could definitely take that one, move on to the Elite 8. And then UNC, I believe they will take down St. Mary's. And then New Mexico taking another upset against Arizona. Arizona's very upset prone. I don't understand why so many people are so high on them. So I'm going to take New Mexico. I think they have a lot of potential to make a run in this tournament. I'm going to complete the rest of this bracket, the rest of my predictions to go on to the Elite 8. All that will be right after this short break once again. All right, welcome back. Changing clothes. I was about to get interrupted by the bell, but let's get right back into it. Going back to the UConn-Auburn upset just for a second. I'm making a bold move, taking them to win, but going back, they're one of these teams that are top 25 in offense and defense. Obviously, UConn is as well, but if there's been one team here that I think can beat them, it has to be Auburn. No one else really in this region. We saw it in the SEC tournament. The defense that they are capable of playing is very dangerous, and I also think that if they add on to this by getting guys like Aiden Holloway making shots, then they have a real shot at winning the whole thing. So I like taking the different move in Auburn beating UConn. Obviously, there are tons of brackets, including me, that have UConn taking it all again, but I like being a little different and taking another possibility, which I think could very much happen. Back to where I left off, though. The rest of the Sweet 16 in the South region, I have Houston taking down Duke. Despite being a Duke fan, I have to admit Houston is better They're the better team, and they're the more physical team. I think even as a Duke fan, they've been kind of soft this year. I'm just excited for next year. I don't really think we have that much of a chance to go far in the tournament. And then next up, I have number 3 Kentucky versus 7 Florida, and I'm actually going to take another upset with Florida. They beat them on the road in the SEC, in SEC play, and I think they're fully capable of winning again and continuing their run. I think they're going to make it all the way to the Elite 8 to match up against Houston. I think they basically own Kentucky by now. But going to the Midwest to find out our last teams who I have going to the Elite 8, I have Utah State keeping their run going, keeping the magic going, beating Gonzaga, and I think Tennessee will take down Creighton. Dalton Connect is bound to ball out in this tournament. I'm really excited to watch him. And now here it is, my Elite 8, Auburn versus BYU in the East region. And I think Auburn takes down BYU. I don't think if they beat UConn, I don't think there's a chance that they lose to a BYU team. I think that in UNC versus New Mexico, I think that UNC will put an end to the Cinderella run that I have planned out for New Mexico. And then now for Florida versus Houston, I think that Houston is the team to end Florida's run. Listen, I think Florida has a very good chance at beating this run. Great matchups. I think they match up well against Marquette. I think they match up very well against Kentucky, but I don't think they could beat a team like Houston, and I think Houston will move on to the Final Four. And then last up, I have Tennessee moving on to the Final Four. So it's my Final Four with Auburn, UNC, Houston, and Tennessee. And on the left side of my bracket, I'm actually going to take Auburn to go all the way to the national championship. With experience from, I feel like, a weaker conference this year in the ACC, and the Auburn Tigers coming in real hot. I believe that Auburn will come in and head to the Natty. Obviously to take this game, I think that they will need to first shut down R.J. Davis, but also they need to give some attention to guys like Ryan, Cormac Ryan, and Harrison Ingram. I think that Auburn is the team that could be able to stop this UNC squad if they make it to the Final Four. And I think that they need to focus on these 3 guys, or these 2 guys after R.J. Davis. I think Tennessee is able to make it to this far to the Final Four, but overall I think they're a little bit too reliant on Dalton Connect. I feel like Houston is just an all-around complete team with 2-way guys like I really like Shed, and then a pure sniper, LJ Cryer. I think if these guys start to get in a groove, then I think it could be game over and Houston could head to the Natty. So after all this, my national championship is Auburn versus Houston, and I really am confident in this Auburn team this year. I took them with a score of 77-70 to take the whole national championship, this whole March Madness. And I think that if they play the kind of defense that they played in the SEC tournament, that they can beat just about anyone. And like I said earlier, Auburn is one of these 8 teams who are top 25 offensively and defensively. So you got a chance there. I think Auburn's going to take it all. But now that you can see what my bracket looks like, me and Reed were able to talk about our brackets and compare who we would think would make some runs. Sending it over there right now. All right, welcome on to the set, Reed. It's a pleasure to have you. How are you doing today?
Pretty good, pretty good.
All right, well, let's get right into it. Just to start it off, I already explained my bracket all the way through. I actually have Auburn taking it all, a bold move. But, Reed, I want to know, who do you have winning the Natty?
So I actually have Marquette winning the whole thing.
I think that's a possibility. I was taking into consideration when I was up here by myself. All the past 22 championships are top 25 offensively and defensively, and Marquette's one of those 18s. So, moving on. Now, I think I do have a few first-round upsets myself, and these are usually really unpredictable, but I want to know, what upsets do you have in your bracket?
So one of my big upsets is Drake beating Washington in the East region. Then we have Grand Canyon University beating St. Mary's, New Mexico beating Clemson, and we have NC State beating Texas Tech.
All right. So, personally, I agree with the Drake upset. I actually don't think it's an upset. I think that they'll probably beat Washington State. I feel like they play in a lighter conference. And then New Mexico, I completely agree. I have them making a long run. NC State, I think I think it could happen. But I actually like Texas Tech in that one. And then I think I also saw, don't you have McNeese there?
Oh, yeah. McNeese beating Gonzaga.
See, personally, I don't agree with that. I feel like everyone's taking that upset. I actually like an upset I do like is Samford over Kansas. We just found out McCullough is out for the whole tournament, so that's going to be a good one for Samford. But personally, I think Gonzaga's going to take it. McNeese has had a really light schedule. But moving on, I was wondering any sleeper teams that you have making some big runs, Sweet 16, Elite 8.
So my big sleeper team is McNeese to the Final Four. It's going to happen. And we also have NC State in the Elite 8. Nope, Sweet 16. But, yeah, that's it.
Personally, the sleeper teams I have are BYU making the Elite 8 against Auburn. I have UConn going out. I was just wondering, where do you have UConn going out?
So I have them playing against Marquette in the championship and just falling short to them.
Even though they lost 3 times?
Yep.
All right.
Yep.
Well, I actually like New Mexico in the Elite 8. I think they can make a huge run. And then I got Florida and Utah State going to the Elite 8. I'm just wondering, what are your thoughts on Purdue this year?
I think they're going to have a light first 2 rounds, but we know how Purdue always is. They're going to choke, and that's going to be to McNeese in the Sweet 16.
I mean, to be honest, I don't even have them get into the Sweet 16. I think they're going to go out to Utah State. I think they match up pretty good. Almost time to wrap it up, but I want to know, what is your Final Four looking like?
So we have Marquette versus McNeese and UConn versus North Carolina.
Not a bad Final Four. Was that 3 1 seeds or 2?
2 1 seeds.
Yeah, I think I was taking a risk on Auburn. I think that tons of people have UConn going back-to-back, but we haven't seen a back-to-back championship. It could definitely happen, but I want it to be different. And I think that Auburn could definitely win. I think they match up great. And then I think I like Tennessee to take it. Either Tennessee or Creighton if Tennessee doesn't take it, because I think Purdue's definitely going to go out, and I think Tennessee will have a clear shot to the Final Four. But national championship, I have Auburn versus Houston. Now, last thing, I want to know, is there any other teams who you think could make a run, possibility, or potentially make a Final Four run?
So, yeah, like you said, I agree. Auburn could make a Final Four run. I like their odds. But, yeah. JMU could have a good chance if they could play well against Duke and Houston. But, yeah, that's pretty much it.
Yeah, I'm a Duke fan, so I wouldn't like to see that. But I think, to be honest, JMU could make a Sweet 16 run until they lose to Houston probably, because I don't think they're going to beat them. All right, well, Reed, it was a pleasure talking to you about our brackets. They're probably going to get smashed, but that's all we got time for today. Thanks for joining me on set.
Thank you for having me.
Welcome back. Thanks, Reed, for coming on. I now had the chance to ask a bunch of Wayne Hill students who they thought would win the national championship, sending you to the hallway to see that.
I think Houston is going to win.
I think Houston's going to win the national championship.
I think Iowa State is going to win the whole thing this year.
All right, so I think Stetson's going to win the whole thing.
I think UNC is going to win the national championship.
I think Duke's going to win the national championship.
I think UNC is going to win the national championship.
I think St. Peter's is going to win because I like a little Cinderella story, and it's fun to watch St. Peter's,
Welcome back. Here are the numbers of who people thought would take the championship. I'll let you look at that for a second, but that's all I have for you this week. Next week I'll cover a bunch of the games, round of 64, round of 32, but just stay tuned for that, and thanks for tuning in to Minardi Madness.